Hi there everybody, my name is Ali and today we are doing Kenobi from TryHackMe. Now this was a fun box because we need to change 3 things to gain initiate foothold. The first thing is that we need to use Pro FTPD 1.3.5 vulnerability which allows us to copy paste files from to the system. The second one is that we can mount var directory from the target system to our Kali machine. So mounting the var directory, we can see all of the directories and files which are present in var directory of the system. And the last thing is that in SMB file shares, we are having a log file, and in that log file, we can see that we are having public and private keys being created for a Kenobi user. So now what we can do was we can using the vulnerability in FTP, we can copy paste file of private key into our mount directory, which is var, and from var we can see the private key. We can use that private key to log into the system and then we will gain initial foothold. In the privilege escalation part, we are having an suid binary. We will exploit that binary because it is running curl as a relative path, and whenever you are running any binary with a relative path, it is a serious vulnerability, because what we can do is we can create our own binary with a malicious code in it, and we can add that path to top of the path, and when we will run that suid binary, our own binary will get executed and then we will get root access. So that being said, let's jump in. I already have started my machine and my IP address is 10.10.201.178. So I will start off with the Nmap scan, Nmap-A for aggressive scan, -V for verbosity, and then the IP address of the target, which is 10.10.201.178. This can take some time to run, so I already have run it. Let's see the results. Looking at the results, we see port 21 is open, the service running is FTP, and the version is Pro FTPD 1.3.5. The very first thing we can do is we can just copy this version here. We can go to Google and we can say, do we have any exploit for this version? If yes, we can download the exploit and see what it says, and we will do that in 1 minute. Then we have port 22, which is SSH, and the banner tells us that it is running OpenSSH 7.2 P2, and the operating system is also being leaked and it is Ubuntu running. Then we have port 80, which is a web server HTTP, and the web server running is Apache HTTP 2.4.18. Then we have port 111, which is RPC bind, and we will be having a very less enumeration onto this port because it is not very interesting. Then we have 139 and 445, both of them are SMB, and we can look into SMB shares. We can see some potential files and we will see that as well. And finally we are having port 2049, which is NFS, and we can also use tools like showmount to see whether we can do any directory. We can mount any directory. So we'll see all of these stuff. So I will start my enumeration with port 21, which is running FTP. So the very first thing I like to do is I like to go into the FTP and I will say 10, can I log in as anonymous? So 10.10.201.178. If I hit enter, let's see, it's asking for username and password. So if I do anonymous as the username and it says anonymous login, okay. If I enter the password as anonymous and it says login incorrect, so it means that I have no access to anonymous logins. That's fine. Let's do one more thing, because this time we are having Pro FTPD 1.3.5, so we can look for exploits. So I will use SearchSploit and I will say, do we have any exploit for Pro FTPD 1.3.5? If I hit enter, we can see that we are having some exploits. The very first one is command execution exploit and it is for Metasploit. Now I will not use Metasploit in this video because I will be going to do each and everything manually. So we are having a second exploit and this one is a Python exploit, and finally we are also having one last exploit which says file copy and it's a text file. So let's see what this Python exploit says, because we can also run Python and run exploits. To download this exploit, we will use again SearchSploit, and this time I will not use Pro FTPD 1.3.5. I will use -m parameter of SearchSploit, which says mirroring, and what it will do, that what path we will supply it will download it. So if I supply the path of this exploit after -m, it will mirror that exploit into my current working directory. So if I do now ls, we can see I am having the exploit into my current working directory. So let's see what this exploit is doing. Now we can see that this exploit is somewhat connecting to the server. Then the main thing which it is doing is that it is copying files from etc, copying file which is etc password file which contains the list of the users, and then it is copying that etc password file somewhere else and then doing some random stuff over it. So I will not use this exploit as well, but I know that this exploit says that we can copy files because it is copying the file from here and it can copy to the destination as well. And in this case, he is using a variable evil, and in evil he is using a PHP code, which is which will not work, I think so, in this case. So let's close this exploit. That's fine. What we can do is that I'm not having anonymous login. So can I do netcat? So I will do netcat, then the IP address of the web server, which is 10.10.201.178 on port 21. And if I hit enter, it says pro ftpd 1.3.5 server. But if I press Ctrl C and if I use netcat with dash v flag, which is verbosity, to see some more details, let's see. It does not give us anything, but it says that ftp is open and this one. So let's see, looking at the exploit which we saw in Python, can I copy etc password file? So if I do like site and if I do copy from, and let's copy the file called etc password because it contains the list of the users and we also have access to this file because anyone has access to this file. So if I hit enter, it says file or directory exists, which means that we can copy this file, and it says ready for destination name. So let's say destination be temp directory, so I will say site copy to, and I will copy this to like, let's say temp. So if I hit enter, it says copy to the directory, I think so. We need to specify the output file name as well. So if I copy to temp and let's name it as password. So if I hit enter now, it says bad sequence of command. I don't know, but it's not working right now. So that's fine. Let's move on to our enumeration. So I'll press Ctrl C here. Then we found that port 80 is also open and web server is running. So let's see what is running on web server. So if I do 10.10.201.178, hit enter, and we see a image here. If I view the page source, yes, so nothing interesting here except one image. So whenever I see some image, I always like to perform strings operation onto this one. So we are having this image. I will remove view page source from here. I will copy the URL to download this image. So I will do wget, paste the URL of the image, hit enter, and it will download the image into my current working directory. If I do ls, we are having this image. The very first thing I like to do is I like to perform strings operation to see whether we are having any sort of like strings or any random characters or any potential username or password, because sometimes behind the image they are having something hidden. So if I hit enter, we will see a lot of garbage, a lot of like gibberish values, but if I scroll down somewhere, there might be something interesting. So let's see. Now, I don't think so that we are having anything interesting. Yeah, so I'm not having anything interesting. Everything is garbage. So that's fine. Let's clear the screen and let's see what else we can see. So if I do open my notes again and my file, yes, so on port 80, we can see it is saying that we are having one disallowed entry in robots.txt file, and in that file is admin.html. So let's see what is admin.html. So I will go to my browser again. I will paste that admin.html here and let's see what it says. And we see another image, I think so, and it says it's a trap. If I view the page source of this one, yes, we do have another GIF this time. So let's download this one and perform strings operation onto this one again. So again, I will do the same thing. I will copy the URL of this image. I will come to my terminal. I will do wget, paste the URL, hit enter, and it will download this image if as well into my current working directory. And now it has been downloaded, so let's perform strings operation on this one to see whether we have something interesting. And again we see a lot of garbage. Let's scroll up to see whether we are having something readable or some readable string, but I don't think so that we are having anything. We are having some stuff here, but again not readable. Let's scroll to the top, and doesn't look interesting anything. We are having some stuff here, but again not readable. So that's fine. Let's clear the screen again and let's see our Nmap scan again. And we are having last three ports, which are SMB, and port 2049, which is NFS. So let's see NFS, which is port 2049. So whenever 2049 is open, I like to use this show mount to see what files or what directory structure I can mount. So I will do show mount -e, and I will specify that IP of target, which is 10.10.201.178. And if I hit enter, we can see that I can mount one directory structure, which is var, and whatever is in var I can mount it. So let's see what is in var. So if I do like mount, and if I specify the IP address of the target, which is 10.10.201.178, and to mount var directory structure to our Kali machine, I need to have a directory as well where I can mount all of that structure. So I will create a directory called, let's say, mount. So I will hit enter. If I do ls, now my directory has been created. What I can do is I will say that mount var directory like this off to the target into my mount directory which I have created, and this is the complete syntax. If I hit enter, now hopefully this can take some time. So let's see while it is running or it is done. So if I do ls, and if I navigate into my mount directory which I created, and if I do ls, we can see I am having the complete file structure of to my target. Now these all files are of my target. I can see that in www, this is normally the web server directory. So if I go into www ls, we are having html. So in html, hopefully we will see all of the web server files, and we can see I'm having admin.html image, both of the images. Then we have index.html and robots.txt. So these all are the files which are hosted on the web server, but nothing interesting into these files. But now I know that I can mount the var directory structure, and I can read files, I can do anything. Now the last thing was SMB. Now whenever I see SMB, I like to use is Smbmap. So I will come out of my mount directory, because in mount directory, if we do everything, it will be extremely slow. So I will come out of here, and now I will do smbmap-h for host, and then the IP address of the web server, which is 10.10.201.178, to see what shares are present. Do we have any share which we can access, or any share has file? So let's see. And we can see now we are having three shares: print dollar, anonymous, and IPC dollar. And print dollar has no access, IPC dollar has no access, but we have access to anonymous. So what we can do is we can use a tool like smbclient, and we can just log into anonymous share and see what files are there. But we can also use smbmap as well with dash r parameter, which is recursive, and we will say that please use anonymous share and show me anything which is in there, and do recursive search as well. So I'll do anonymous again. If I hit enter, and this time what it will do is it will list everything which is in this anonymous share, because we are having read only access. And we can see now that it has shown everything which is in this anonymous share, and we are having one file which is log.txt. So it looks like that there might be some sort of logs off to the target system. Let's see. Let's try to read this one. Now to read this one using smbmap, again I will use the same command and I will use one more parameter, which is capital A. And what capital A is, it will download the file. So I will use -a and I will say please download log.txt. If I hit enter, first of all what it will do is it will search that whether log.txt is present. If it is present, it will download this to my current working directory. Now you can use other tools like smbclient. So for the syntax for smbclient will be smbclient, then 4 /. And if we need to list the shares, what we can do, dash capital L to list the shares. Then we can specify the target IP address, which is 10.10.201.178, then 2 /. Afterwards, if I hit enter, it will, now in this case it says that okay, so I am having a typo, I am using 2 periods. Let's hit enter now, and it says root password. If I hit enter again without any password, we can see all of the shares. Now why I like smbmap, because smbmap shows me that whether I have access to the shares or not, but smb client does not show me whether I have access to them or not. So if we need to, now I know through smbmap that I have access to anonymous. So what I can do is smb client, same command, I will remove this L parameter from here. I will remove 2 /. From the beginning, 1 / from the end, and I will say that I need to log in as anonymous. So if I do anonymous share, if I hit enter, now I am into the anonymous share. If I do ls, I am having a file called log.txt. Now if I need to download log.txt file, what I can do is simply do get, and I will do get log.txt, and what it will do, it will do the same thing. It will download log.txt into my current working directory. So if I hit enter, we can see it says getting file log.txt, and hopefully now log.txt is present in my current working directory. So I can now exit out from here, and if I do ls, we can see I am having log.txt file present here, and this one is log.txt from smb client, and using smbmap, it downloads the complete file name with the IP address and share name as well. So both of them are absolutely fine. Let's see what is into the log file. So if I do log.txt, and we can see at the very beginning it is creating public and private keys. And for what user it is creating public and private keys, it is creating public and private keys for the user Kenobi in the home directory of Kenobi user, which is /home kenobi.ssh id_rsa. Now id_rsa is public key, and id_rsa.pub, sorry, id_rsa is private key, but id_rsa.pub is public key. So using public and private keys, if we have access to public and private key, what we can do is we can get access to private key. We can use private key to log in using a user Kenobi, because this is the private key of user Kenobi, and using that private key we can log in without the password of Kenobi. So now let's scroll down to see what else we are having. Now we are having, I think so, some sort of configurations for port 21 and other ports as well. If I scroll down, global settings, networking, authentication, then we are having some sort of password rules or password configuration files or domain. So I think so rest of the things are all configuration files, but the main key is that we are having the full path of our private key. So that's fine. Now what I can do is that I am having all of the three things. The very first thing is vulnerability in FTPD 1.3.5. I can copy paste files. We are having, I know that I am having private key in my Kenobi user directory. So I can copy Kenobi's private key into my var directory, because I can mount that var directory, and I will read the private key from to my var directory, and I will gain access to Kenobi user with using that public key. So let's start our exploitation process. So very first thing I will again do is I will do netcat -v for verbosity. and I will specify IP address of the web server 10.10.201.178 on port 21. If I hit enter, I am logged in as in Pro FTPD. What I will do is I will say I want to copy this one, which is home kenobi.ssh id rsa. So I will say I copy from this directory and the file name is id underscore rsa. If I hit enter, it will say file or directory exist and ready for destination name. So it means that I have successfully copied the private key. Now I will copy it to my, let's say, var, and let's see what we are having into our var directory. So if I go into my mount ls, so we are having these directories. So let's download the private key to temp directory, because temp directory is normally writable by any user. So I will say site copy to, and I will copy this id rsa into var temp, and I will name it as id underscore rsa. If I hit enter, it says copy successful. Now into this mount, if I go to my temp directory and if I do ls, we can see I am having my id underscore rsa and I can read this private key as well. So if I do like cat id underscore rsa, we can see I am having id underscore rsa, and this is what private key looks like. Now what I will do is I will simply copy this private key. I will create a file, come out of my mount directory because it is slow here, and I will create a file called id underscore rsa into my Kali machine. I will paste the private key here, and now what we can do with this private key is that we can simply log in using ssh without specifying the password. And to do that, we need to do ssh dash I to specify id underscore rsa, which is our private key, and then I will specify the username. And now I know that this id underscore rsa is for Kenobi user because it was present in the home directory of Kenobi. So I will specify that I need to log in as Kenobi, and I will do IP address of the web server 10.10.201.178. Now this will not work because of the file permissions. Let's see. If I hit yes, we can see it is giving me two errors. One of them is it says load public key id underscore rsa invalid format. The second one is that I am having unprotected private key file. So I will press Ctrl C and we can see it is asking us for the password again. So I'll press Ctrl C, and if I show you the file permissions on id underscore rsa, now this is a very potential file, so we should not have any read access as well. So I will change the file permissions from to like 600, and now if I do ls-la onto this file, now we can see only the owner of this file can read and write, and no one else can do anything. So now if I do the same thing like ssh-i for id underscore rsa and then the Kenobi user, and if I hit enter, this time we will have an error, but hopefully now I am logged in. So just ignore the error, and now I am logged into the system, and now I have initial foothold. So if I do ls, we are having user.txt file, and hopefully this will have the flag. So if I do word count -c on user.txt file, we see there are 33 characters, which means this is the actual file. And if I show you the file permissions onto this one, I am the Kenobi user and I have read write access, so I can do anything. So now this was the initial foothold. We need to chain three things to gain initial foothold. Now I will go for my privilege escalation. So the very first thing I will do id command, and let's see what id I have. I have a user id of 1000, group id of 1000, and there are a lot of groups which I am a member of. I am a member of admin, cd-rom, sudo, and plug dev, and the lxt, which is the most interesting one, because what we can do is whenever you are a member of any lxt group, we can like create a alpine image and then started using the flag called security.privilege, and we can set security.privilege to true. What it will do is that we can force the container to interact as root with our host file system, and when we can interact as root with our host file system, we can edit the etc sudoers file, and in the sudoers file we can say that please give access to Kenobi user as all. So then we can come back to our host system, we can do sudo su, and hopefully when Kenobi user is having complete access, it will simply get root. But right now I don't know whether this will work in this machine or not, but hopefully it should work. But right now I will show you some other ways to do privilege escalation. So I will start my enumeration with like uname-a to see the kernel information, what architecture is the system, and the kernel is 4.8.0, so it is also updated. We can also do SearchSploit, or we can go to Google and say do we have any exploit for 4.8.0, but right now I think so it is quite updated. Then we are having the architecture as well. It is x64 bit because it says x86 underscore 64. If it would have been 32-bit, there would be like i386 or i368, like something, anything starting from i3. But right now this is starting from x86, which means it is x64 architecture. Then I normally like to see my sudo privileges, so sudo -l to see what privileges I am having. So I am having nothing. It says password for Kenobi, and I don't have any sort of password right now, so I will press Ctrl C. And the main thing here is that I am having a fully interactive TTY shell, because if I press Ctrl C, we can see my shell is not expired. If I press Ctrl L, I can clear my screen as well. So I am having a fully interactive TTY shell here as well. Then after sudo privileges, we can look for cron tabs as well. So if I do like cron tab -l, hit enter, it says no cron tab for Kenobi. If I cat out my cron tab file, cat etc cron tab, and we can see right now I am having no cron tab as well, so that's fine. Then I normally look for like suid binaries, so to that I go for find in my home directory with the permissions of 4000, and then I like to pipe it out to dev null, so to dev null, and if I hit enter, it will list us all of the suid binaries. So let's see, and now we are having all of the suid binaries. So again, in my last video I told you that it basically depends upon the experience. You need to look out what are the strange suid binaries. So in this case, the strange binary is this one, which looks to me is strange, which is menu, because this looks strange to me. Now, if you don't have experience, what you can do is you can go to GTF obins, but sometimes GTF obins also does not help, but almost all the times GTF obin does help. So now in this case, user bin menu looks interesting. So let's see what actually it is doing. So I will do copy this one. I will do ls-la onto this one to see whether suid bit is set on this one or not. And yes, suid bit is set. And if you don't know what suid bit is, it means that whenever it is set on any binary, we can run that binary with the privileges of root. So let's run this binary and let's see what it is actually doing. So if I just paste the path, full path of this binary, if I hit enter, we can see it is doing three things. The first thing is status check. The second thing is kernel version. The third thing is ifconfig command. So let's see what status check is actually doing. So if I hit 1, press enter, it's doing some sort of a curl command. Now I don't know what sort of curl command is doing, but from to the syntax I know that it is using a curl command. That's fine. Let's see what the second version is doing. So it is doing kernel version, which is what we did as well. So if I show you into another shell, so if I do ssh dash id underscore rsa Kenobi at 10.10.201.178. So if I do uname -a we can see exactly the same version, which is 4.8.0, but right now it is only showing me the version. So hopefully it is not doing uname-a, it is doing something strange. So is it doing uname-r? And yes, it is actually doing uname-r, which shows only the kernel version. So hopefully behind this kernel version, this command is working. And finally, we are having ifconfig. So if I do run this binary again, and if I do 3, and if I hit enter, hopefully it is showing me the IP address details. And the IP address is the same, which is 10.10.201.178. That's fine. Now what I actually like to do is I again like to perform strings operation whenever I see any strange binary, whenever I see any strange image. As I did in the beginning, I always prefer to do strings operation. So if I do strings onto this binary, because sometimes it actually shows that what actually behind the scenes is being done. So if I do user bin menu and hit enter, we will see a lot of garbage, but sometimes we can see something interesting behind that garbage as well. So if I scroll up a little bit, we can see that Ubuntu 5.4.0 is running, and then we are having the menu as well. But below the menu, we can see the original commands which it is actually doing. So if I zoom this out, we can see that actually for kernel version uname-r was working, and I show you that uname-r is running to see the kernel version. Then for ifconfig, only ifconfig command is working, and the first command was curl, and it is doing a curl on itself, which is localhost. Now the vulnerability lies here is that the curl is actually a binary, and we need to specify this curl binary with its full path. If you are not doing that, then it's a serious vulnerability, because what actually happens behind the scenes is that if we run curl without the absolute path, it finds curl into the path. So if I show you the path, so echo $path. Now this is the path. So if I zoom this out, we can see these all are the directories which are added into the path. So when we will run curl without its absolute path, what actually the Linux will do, it will come to the path, it will say that whether we have curl into this directory, it will search for curl in home Kenobi bin, and if it finds it, it will run it. If it doesn't find it, it will move on. So then it will move on to home Kenobi dot local bin. Then it will find that whether curl is present here. If it's not, it will move on. Then it will find in user local, and so on. So in path, whatever directory is present, it will search for curl, and wherever it finds curl, it will run the curl, and then it will show you the results. Now the vulnerability lies here is that what an attacker can do, that attacker can create a curl binary into, like, let's say his home directory. So if I do pwd, this is the home directory of the attacker. If I make a binary called curl, so if I do like touch curl, and let's say that we can run malicious code. So if I do echo, and let's do id command first. So if I do echo id into this curl, and if I get this curl out, our id command is there. So if I change the mode to executables, because it should be an executable, and if I show you now ls, it is in color green because it is an executable. So if I run curl, we can see our id command has been executed. So now if I do pwd to show you what is my home directory is home/kenobi. So what I can do is I can add this home/kenobi at the top of the path, and when I will run that suid binary, what it will do is it will come to the path, and it will say that okay, in home/kenobi curl is present, and it will run my curl except the curl which is present already into the system. And let's see where it is present. So I will use locate command and locate curl, and it says locate command not found. That's fine, but normally binaries are always present in user bin. So if I do user bin and if I do curl, and we can see curl is present in user bin curl. Now how I noticed that, because I press tab onto my keyboard, and when I press tab it auto completed curl, which means that curl is present in user bin curl. So let's see into the path where is user slash bin. So we can see right here is user slash bin. So when I will run this binary, which is like this one, let's remove strings from here. And if I hit enter, now you can see when I will press 1 and hit enter, it will come to the path. It will search that whether user bin is present here or not. It will find that user bin is present right here, which is this one, and then it will run curl from this directory. But what if an attacker makes our mm, curl binary, his own curl binary, add a malicious code into this one and add this to the path, and the path comes right here. So when I will run that suid binary, it will come here, it will run my curl and it will get executed. So let's see. But before doing that, we need to add our home directory where my curl is present, this one. We need to add this into the path. So for adding any directory into the path, we use this command, which is export, and I will export my path or my directory. But I don't think so that in the second shell it will work, because we need to run it where we need to run suid binary. So if I do like one, and I need to export my path here, so I will zoom this out and I will do export, and I will export the path to my current working directory, which is this one. Let's see, pwd. Yes, so I am in home slash Kenobi. If I do ls, I do have curl here, so I will do export path equals to my present working directory, so which is pwd. So I'll specify pwd except home slash Kenobi, so I don't need to specify full path. I'll just simply specify pwd, and then I will press a colon, and then I will do dollar $path. And now if I hit enter and if I show you my path, now what actually will happen is that my home slash Kenobi will be added at the top of the path. So if I show you echo my path variable, if I hit enter, now we can see that home slash Kenobi is right at the top of the path. Now when I will use that suid binary, what it will do, it will look for curl into the path. It will find that my curl is present in home Kenobi. It will run my curl whether, and it will not run the curl which is present in user slash bin. So let's see. If I go to user bin menu, hit enter, if I do 1 for status check, and you can see now my curl command got executed, and in that curl command I used an id command, and using that id it get executed, and we can see I am having a user id of root. Now why I am having a user id of root? Because suid binary means that it will run as root. So now I can go very easy way. What I can do is I can simply add bin bash into the file, and when I will run the suid binary, bin bash will run as root, and bin bash is a shell, so we will get root shell. So I will do ls, and this time I will echo bin bash into my curl binary which I created. Hit enter. If I cat out curl, we can see now bin bash is there. So now if I run that suid binary which is user bin menu, if I hit enter and if I do 1, now most probably my curl will run and there is bin bash in there. So hopefully I should have a root shell. So if I hit enter, you can see now I am root at Kenobi. So if I type in who am I am root. Now this was the box, and this was a huge box. The video got quite long, so if I go into my root ls we are having root.txt, and if I do word count on this one, hopefully I should have a word count of 33, which means this is the actual flag. And this was the box. So let's come to the questions. What were the questions of TryHackMe, and let's try to answer them. So the very first one, deploy the machine. Scan the machine with Nmap. How many ports are open? Let's see our Nmap scan. And we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 3 ports below. So 4 and 3. We are having 7 ports open. So I'll hit 7 and press enter. It says correct answer. Then it says using the nmap command above, how many shares have been found? So the shares which we found were 3. So if I hit enter, I am having 3 shares. Then it says that once you are connected, list the files. So I know that log.txt file was present there. Then what port is FTP running? Most probably 21 is the port on which always FTP does run. And it says what mount we see, and we know the directory which we can mount was var get initial access. So what is the version of Pro FTPD? It was 1.3.5. How many exploits are there for Pro FTP? I saw 3 in SearchSploit. So let's see whether it is a correct answer. No, how many exploits are there for Pro FTPD running? It says we can use SearchSploit to find exploits. So if I come to my SearchSploit, for Pro FTPD, if I hit enter, there are a lot of exploits, but let's search for 1.3.5, and it gives me 3 exploits. That's strange. And it says, is it one which is running? No. So there are 3 exploits, but one of them is a text file. So 2 exploits? No. So let's go to exploit database and let's see how many exploits are there on exploit database. Now exploit database and SearchSploit, both of them are same things, but I think so SearchSploit might be outdated, but let's see. So exploit database, if I search for here Pro FTPD 1.3.5, if I hit enter, okay, so on exploit DB we are having 4 exploits. Let's see what is the correct answer. We have 4 exploit. Yes, we do have 4 is the correct answer. So hopefully the exploit database which is having exploit, there are 4 exploit, and exploit database is more updated than SearchSploit. Now it depends upon you which one you want to use, so that's fine. Then we need to have the user flag here, which you can just simply get out the user flag from the home directory of Kenobi user, and then in the privilege escalation part it says what file looks particularly out of ordinary. So now again, as I told you, based upon the experience, you need to figure out what is the strange binary. So the strange binary was for me user bin menu. It says run the binary. How many options appear? There were 3 options: status check, kernel version, and ifconfig. And finally it has also shown me the same stuff: enter your choice id, and then we are having the root flag as well. So hopefully this was the box. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please subscribe and like, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.